Good evening, welcome. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's quite an honor, and seeing here the crowd is really awesome, so I'm really happy that over here people are taking testing very seriously, now the rest of the world. Who am I? First of all, I'm a PHP consultant. You could also hear this in the introduction. What I do is I tell people, okay, you're in shit, this is how we're gonna solve it. Besides that, I'm also a community leader. That means that, yes, I'm organizer of a PHP community in Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. And we have this annual get-together, which people call conference. It's not as big as this one. So yeah, if you happen to be in Belgium in January, we have a party there. And I'm also a contributor to open source projects, mainly PHP. Don't consider me to be like a guru like Sebastian Bergman here. He created the tool. I just see a flaw in his documentation and I start contributing the fixes. So the big question is, why bother with testing? And this is going to be very interesting because I love picking people out of the audience. Most of the excuses I got was, sorry, we don't have time for that, or it doesn't fit in our budget. The one I really like is, we deliver the test after we have delivered the code, which means never. And of course you have those people that say, we don't know how. Well, this is Grumpy, and he's very sad that he is not here, so no excuses for inviting him the next time. Basically, it's a responsibility issue. As a developer, it's your job to write the code and fixing bugs. It's your job to add documentation with your code. And it's also your job to write and update your unit tests. I call it the pizza principle. Topping, that's your test. The dough, that's your code. The box around it, that's your documentation. And when we saw the pizzas being delivered, they were in boxes. So everyone enjoyed those, so everyone is happy. So if your manager says, well, we don't have time for that, order some pizzas without the topping, without the boxes. See if he likes that. So what are the benefits of testing? Well, the easiest part is you get direct feedback. The moment that something breaks, your test will fail, bang, it's out there. And once a test is made, it will always be, again, repeatedly used in your continuous testing. The nice thing is that once you have your test in place, oh, let's fix this feature. You can refactor the whole internals. The API still remains the same. And you have your test to confirm that you did a good job. And also, one of the things that I like about unit test is it's really, really easy to debug. You write the test and you will see, oh, this is not even a bug, it's just a stupid user. I mean, they exist. They're not from an alien planet, really. And in the end, it gives me and all the developers a higher confidence at what they're doing. It really gives them a better self-esteem. And I really enjoy that. I mean, working with confident developers, who doesn't want to do that, right? So my rule of thumb is, whenever you're tempted to write something like print or var dump or something, write a unit test instead. A lot easier. Let's get started. PHP unit. We have Mr. Sebastian Bergman right here. So please have a round of applause for Mr. Sebastian Bergman. Because without him, we hadn't had the quality of code. So go look at here. And there's one line here. I still have it in place. After December 31st, it will be removed. And hopefully I won't have to give this talk again. So how do we approach for testing? Well, first we need to instantiate a unit of code. What you do is you assert expected results against the actual result. So you have an expectation and you match that expectation with the real world. And then you provide like a custom error message. Basically, it's like speed dating. Same thing. For our speed dating, we also have the following assertions. It's a whole bunch, and every single time that I look at the PHP unit spec, I see more assertions, but That's me. The most common ones, assert count, empty, equals, false, true, same, null. The rest are very useful, but you probably have used the bold ones quite often. And why do we have those? Well, to protect and serve. Because data is tainted. It's always tainted. Well, first of all, we have the hackers. Then, of course, we have some bad data. Of course, web services, which are not under your control, might be also a little bit hard to figure out. And then, of course, your stupid users. Again, here they are again. You can't get rid of them. The reason is, well, you don't want to end up in the news. So, website is hacked, or this is a Dutch paper where, a web shop was actually providing everyone free checkouts, so you could purchase whatever you want and didn't have to pay a dime. I like that, but if you're working for that business, not so much. So every developer should be aware of OWASP. Anyone in the room who hasn't heard of OWASP before? Okay, cool. So the top 10 are the most common attack vectors that hackers or stupid users use on your system. And the best thing is that at least you provide some knowledge in these kind of things, that you are working against implementation of bad attitudes there. There's this Chris Shiflett, he's a guy who lives in New York. He wrote this book about 2005, I think. It's all about essential PHP security. There have been updates. I think the latest was in 2007. But still today, this book is very, very actual. So if you don't already own it, download my slides. The book, you click on it, it will go to Amazon affiliation. I get a small percentage when you purchase it. Hey, I need to make a living too, you know? So we were talking about the smallest unit of code. Sorry, I'm rambling. Let's have an example class, and we always have to have an example class. So we have a my class with a do something with required parameters, optional parameters. We have an if statement, an exception thrown, another if statement with another if statement with another exception, and so on, and so on, and so on. I love happy testing, so we always test for the good things, right? So here's a nice test class exception. Required a valid argument. So argument, testing PHP class, my class, do something with the argument, and we expect that the result differs from the actual result. That's a very simple assertion. With the valid optional argument, same thing, and we test this. But we also test for the bad things. Okay, we make sure that something is going wrong, and over here that our optional parameter is going wrong as well. That's the textbook. In real life, you have a payment system. Who uses PayPal? Okay, then you probably will recognize this kind of code, right? So you have a new customer with some data for the customer. You have transaction with new data for the transaction. And then you have a process. And this is basically your payment processing functionality. So the process comes from the PayPal API. You provide it with a sale. That's what's happening. The customer object, the transaction object, and you pay it. And then you need to have like process payment approved and assert equals. So everyone that rose their hand saying that they were using PayPal, this is probably one of your tests? I can't hear you. Not yet? Okay, I love that. So next time I ask the question, you have this, right? But this is still clean code. I mean, the API is well written, so you can really write clean and nice assertions. Unfortunately, we don't live in a fairy tale. If someone knows this, this is the Efteling. It's a theme park in the Netherlands, all around fairy tales. So We don't live there. We have to live in a world where real code, real apps exist. So I was looking on GitHub for an ERP system built on PHP, and there are 210 repositories. In all those 210 repositories, because a lot of these things already had some tests in it, so that was not fair. And I stumbled upon EPESI. Don't ask me what it is. It's being developed somewhere in a country. I'm not still clear if it's India or Pakistan, but it was designed there. And when I looked at the code, it also had a couple of followers, had a couple of forks. Okay, so people might use this. So after installation, I had it up and running. It looks a little bit like late 2006 kind of interface, but I can live with that. So let's look at the code. So the interface, it's all up and running. How's the code? Hey, look, we have tests. Attachment, bug track, and so on and so on. Oh, cool, there are tests in it. Actually, they're not. This directory is only validating that the installation was successful. That's it. Oh no, no tests. Okay, well, this was my challenge. I wanted to have like a legacy application without tests, exactly what I needed. So let's get started. So everyone that's sitting here probably has the same problem. Where do we get started? I mean, we have a legacy application, a whole bunch of code. How do we get started with unit testing? So how to go about it? First, look at the main design of the application. You have an admin, include modules. Those things sound like very important components of the application. Data, docs, images, not so much. Those are assets, at least in my consideration. So the first thing that we do, and that is what happens for every single project that you start with, you get starting with a PHP unit XML file, because you don't want to type everything on the command line. And as you can see, we created a test specifically for the admin, test for include, and test for modules. Over here, and this is a very nice feature, you can have constants defined which are being provided to your PHP unit execution. And for some particular reason, I needed to set debug autoloads to value 1, and a CID was also required, and I just put in a random number which appeared to work, so that was cool. Let's have a look at that module manager. It's one of the classes that was in there. So I see a whole bunch of not loaded modules, modules install, and so on. So what is a very important thing of all this? I said, well, let's have a look at that module install. If you cannot install a module, I think that's a pretty bad thing if you don't have it functional. So when I look this, I see public static final function. Okay, yeah, it's static, so we can work with this. I see 1 if statement, 2 if statements, 3 if statements, trigger error. I mean, we have exceptions, but okay, I can live with this. And then everything returns true, except for over here. So, how do we get started on this? Well, very simple. We make sure that, because it's static, we always tear down that modules install, which is a property. And then, okay, let's return immediately when the module appears to be loaded. That's the first if statement. So we have a module foobar, which doesn't exist in the code base. We have modules install, and we already have a module with 1. That's this foobar. and we have include install the module. So what we're trying to do here is exactly what's the title says. We already try to install an existing module, and it should return a true from the result. And we also need to make sure that we only have one module in our static property. So when we run our tests, it immediately says, okay, cool, everything is fine. And this is where the code coverage reports are very handy, because it allows us, and maybe it's hard to see in the back, but the first line is green, while the rest is still red. So we can actually see our progress. And this is why I use these code coverage reports more than to see, oh, we have like 20% code coverage or 50%. I couldn't care less. I want to see, did I actually succeeded in my mission here? Okay, so first condition, we can check it off. Let's see if we can reach that second condition, if we can break out of it. And as you can see, if the file already exists with the full path, we need to return false. If the file doesn't exist, sorry. So let's write it. We have the module foobar, which is an unexisting module. Module manager includes the module, and it should return the false. Still, everything's simple, right? We run it. Assertions are green, and the first lines are green all the way up to the first if statement. The rest is still red. So, yes, we accomplished our goal. Let's test for that third condition. So, just following the specs, it's a client which doesn't have the installation class with it. So I try to install it, and I expect an assert false. Okay, run it. It's still green. Okay, good. And then I look at my code coverage. I'm not reaching there. So I did some analysis on this code, and that third condition, non-executable code. So basically, yeah, we can throw that away because we'll never reach it. The second condition captures all. And then, of course, we need to test for success. We use an existing module with a installation class as well. We try to load it. Everything is working out. Our code coverage report says we're good. And even though we have created these tests, don't let it slow you down, because something is still better than nothing. And this is something that you need to learn as a developer. It's not about the amount of code coverage that you have. I mean, you can have 100% code coverage that basically covers only the happy conditions and not the worst case conditions. You need to find the balance in your development, because your goal is basically to bridge gaps. You have a code, and you have the changes that you want to make, and you need to make the bridge to ensure that whatever you're doing is not going to break the system. Let's have some look at your privates. So everyone stand up, take off your clothes, and no, let's not go there. There is this class in this code base that's called dependency. And again, I thought this was a very, very important class. It has a construct, get module name, get version min, get version max, is satisfied by, requires, and those are all methods. Let's have a look at the code. And then I see, oh, we have a private. How do we reach this? So basically the developer had something in mind like, don't touch my junk. I mean, I don't know how many times he went through TSA. I cannot tell. The only way that we can solve this problem is I need to make sure that the constructor sets the proper property settings. And what I did figure out is that there's this static method that allows me to set all the variables. So the only thing that I needed to do in a reflection is make sure that I could read off these properties so I can at least verify that everything was set correctly. So the requires range is one that says everything. And then we start off with the reflection class on dependency. We have the reflection class get property module name, make it accessible. And we do this for the rest of the properties as well. And then we can do some assertions. The module name needs to be equal, equal, equal. And it took me a while before I figured out, oh, they need signs saying equal then, less than, equal, and all that kind of crap. But yeah, I figured it out. And now we can actually have a workable test. And again, we can use our code coverage report basically to say, with all this crap code, even though it might look very hard to test at first, there's always a way. And in my opinion, paradise does exist. Yeah, Sebastian wrote it. The thing is that unit testing is not difficult. I think the hardest thing in unit testing is to get started and to think out of the box. Don't worry, PHP has all the tools that you need. You don't need to have additional tools to achieve your goals. And like many things with PHP, more roads to Rome. But there's one stop fix, that's phpunit.de. You always get the latest information. And if you like some books, I can really recommend the Grumpy Guide to Building Testable Applications or the Grumpy Programmer's PHP Unit Cookbook. If you're a fan of packed publishing, there's this hands-on testing with PHP Unit how-to. I know the author. I don't like to do with this. And this is a shameless plug for a conference. It's in January in Antwerp. So if you have the interest, come and join us. Final note on this is leave some feedback on my presentation on Joined In. I love feedback. I want to improve on this. I want to hear your opinions about it, so let me know. I also uploaded the slides there, so leave some feedback, grab the slides, have some fun.